Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today for another thought from the Bible. This last week, I needed to go to the opticians. I needed to have an eye check. Discovered that I probably should have been wearing my glasses a bit more than I have been, getting a little bit older. But anyway, the appointment was in town here in Ashford, and so I decided I would get a lift in with Dave in the morning as he went to work, but I had a little bit of time to kill, so I thought, I'm gonna go and get a coffee while I wait and maybe a cheeky croissant. And as I sat there in the cafe, I opened up my phone and got my daily Bible reading plan and started to skim through quite a dry section of Exodus. But then came a passage in Romans, and there was one verse in it that just absolutely stopped me in my tracks. Never be lacking in zeal, it said, but keep your spiritual fervour serving the Lord. I want to ask you a challenging question today. Does that verse describe you? Are you never lacking in zeal? I looked up what that word meant while I was sat there in the cafe. Zeal. It means great energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or an objective. Are you constantly filled with energy and enthusiasm all of the time? That's quite a challenging question. And what about keeping your spiritual fervour? I looked that up too. Fervour. Intense and passionate feeling, it means, or great intensity of feeling or belief. Now, different translations of the Bible of this same verse talk about serving the Lord enthusiastically. They talk about being aglow in the spirit, shining brightly, burning brightly as we enthusiastically serve the Lord. All of it gives this picture of passion, of diligence. We are supposed to be passionate about serving the Lord. Are we? Passionate joy in eager service. I wrote that down in my notebook in the cafe as I sipped my coffee, and I felt challenged to my very core. So I think it's all too easy for our enthusiasm, for our excitement, for our energy to wane when it comes to our service to the Lord. It may be because we're not seeing results in our ministry and we start to ask that dangerous little question, what's the point? It may be because we feel stagnant in our workplace, because you know your work is service to God as well. In fact, whatever you do, the Bible tells us, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Whatever you do. This isn't just talking about what you may do in your church on a Sunday morning. This is your whole life. Whatever you do, being a parent, being a carer, being a student, being a teacher, being an employee, being a boss, working for yourself, pottering in the garden, talking to your neighbours, whatever you do, it's all for the Lord. Everything you do. And that means in everything that we do in our lives, we should never be lacking in zeal. We should be keeping our spiritual fervour, and we should be serving the Lord in that place. So why is it then that we don't always feel that way? Why do we feel exhausted in our work? Why do we feel a lack of energy in our day-to-day lives, in our ministries? Why do so many Christians reach that point of burnout? Why does the thought of getting up to do it all over again occasionally fill us with dread? Well, there are many reasons, but I think that there are two that we can pick up on from this passage in Romans. See, the NLT puts that verse like this. It says, never be lazy. Ouch. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Never be lazy. That sounded a little bit harsh to me, right? Just occasional laziness, surely. Well, I found myself looking up that word lazy too while I was sat there in that cafe. And the definition was interesting because it said unwilling to work or use energy. Unwilling to work or use energy. I found that really interesting. See, not being lazy doesn't mean that you never stop. It doesn't mean that you never rest. It doesn't mean that you never take time out. It means an unwillingness to use our gifts, our talents, and our energy to serve the Lord. That's an interesting perspective shift, isn't it? Recognizing that you need downtime is not laziness. That is sensible. We need downtime. Too often we equate inactivity with laziness, and that is simply not the case. But on the other hand, taking a good look at yourself and asking these difficult questions, asking yourself, am I actually willing to use my time and my tools and my talents and my resources to serve the Lord? That is also a sensible thing to do. And it may be that life has kind of stripped that willingness away from you because maybe you tried so hard before, but nothing happened. Maybe you were hurt by somebody or by the circumstances you faced, and now you're holding onto what God has given you really, really tightly and really closely, and you don't want to risk that pain again. Maybe you're feeling so tired today that the thought of trying to use any of that precious energy to serve is just too much right now. Well, that leads really nicely onto the second reason that we find. So when we were living in Liberia, our oven was connected to a gas bottle, a big one. It was how we cooked. I cannot tell you how frustrating it was when you were in the middle of cooking something, typically cooking a meal for somebody who was coming to visit, of course, always some kind of special occasion, and that gas bottle would run out. Without letting you know, of course. So, it would only be like as you start to think, I feel like I should be smelling some kind of delectable aroma from the kitchen right now. And oh, look, the gas is off. The oven has turned itself off. And I would have to run outside the house and do battle with the fire ants who had a nest right outside the little box where our gas bottle lived, who would pounce on your foot the moment you invaded their territory, and I'd have to lug this new heavy gas bottle over to the box and swap them out, and then dread having to phone somebody to organise a replacement, and finally, I would be able to carry on cooking. But the flame had gone out because the source of the gas had come to an end. It was finite. That's how it is for us when we try and serve the Lord in our own strength. That strength will come to an end. That bottle will empty. It may take a while, but at some point, That bottle is not going to be able to sustain you anymore. Your own strength is not going to be able to sustain you anymore. You know, at one point we had a leak somewhere in the system from the gas bottle to the house. We weren't sure if it was in the pipe or at the regulator, and it meant that I was having to order a new bottle almost every week. It just kept on running out. And that's so true of us too, isn't it? When we're feeling a bit fractured, when we're a bit battered, a bit bruised, a bit broken, it doesn't take long in that condition for our energy reserves to empty. It's been such a novelty cooking in the UK. Our oven is gas here too, but it's connected to the mains supply, and that means it doesn't run out. It just keeps on going. That external source of power is, to all intents and purposes, unlimited. It won't stop. It won't go out. I could turn the oven on and leave it on all day long and it would keep on burning. You can probably tell where I'm going with this, right? If we want to serve the Lord passionately, enthusiastically, joyfully, with zeal, then we do so by making sure that we stay connected to an external source of power. Remain in me, Jesus said. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, that gas bottle is gonna run dry. You're gonna run out of energy. Apart from Jesus, it's impossible to keep our spiritual fervour, to be never lacking in zeal, to keep serving the Lord. And part of remaining in that vine is being open to the one who tells us when it's time to put everything down, to come to him and find rest. It's not about doing things all the time. It's not about measurable productivity and results. It's about recognizing that we can't do it on our own. We need that external source of power. It's about intentionally connecting back into that vine all over again, day by day. It's about recognizing that what we do is way less important than what we are. Branches grafted into the almighty vine, bearing fruit, not because of our own strength, but because of him, because of Emmanuel, Christ in us. It's in that place where we find our zeal again, boundless passion and intensity, eager enjoyment in what we are called to do. So do you feel a little bit dry, a little bit distant, empty, burned out? Then I encourage you today, just take a moment or two in your busy day and ask God to hook you back into that vine. Forget about results, forget about achieving, just come back to him and find your strength renewed all over again. In that place, serving the Lord in whatever activity it may be that you need to do today becomes less of a chore and more of an unquenchable joy. God wants us to burn brightly. He does not want us to burn out. connect to that external power source again today. Well, thank you so much for joining me for that thought from the Bible. I won't be back next week. I'm actually on holiday for 2 weeks now, so I won't be recording videos for that time. But if you want to make sure that you don't miss anything for when I get back, I've just set up a new Substack newsletter. I'm going to be emailing just about once a month with an encouragement from the Bible and some updates about any projects that I'm working on, what I've been up to, and links to the latest videos as well. So you can register for that newsletter and it'll make sure that you never miss out on anything. I'll put the link in the description below, so just follow that and sign up with your email address today. Thank you so much for your support in this ministry, your encouragement and your thoughts and your prayers, and just being here to explore this amazing book with me. It really means the world. Thank you so much. So I will see you in a couple of weeks as we meet back together again to keep exploring this amazing book and just learn what it means for us as we do life in this world today. Thank you so much for joining me.